inspired by today's inauguration of President Biden and thinking about the history of our country's transition of power, which started with George Washington, and also inspired by my recent viewing of the musical Hamilton, I've decided to paint a George Washington portrait on a quarter. This way I can use the techniques that I use when painting miniatures, and I only have to worry about color and light placement on the quarter. I hope this is kind of fun. I'm also inspired a little bit by a comment that I heard from one of my favorite miniature painters, Miniac, who was saying he does not like it when people paint spoons because it's not a miniature. This is somewhere in between spoons and an actual miniature. So I don't know what his take would be on painting quarters, but I'm going to paint one. Also, for anyone who may be worried that I am defacing money and that's is illegal, two things. One, this I'm painting with acrylic paint so it can be removed, and also because I'm not trying to pass this off as something that is worth more than a quarter, it is not illegal to change the coin. So let's start celebrating George Washington. I have decided to paint a scene, maybe not realistic in the direction that George Washington was facing, but during the crossing of the Delaware, there was a full moon, and so I'm going to try to paint moonlight on the face. And also, I like this because as I was researching what that particular event was like, I noted that George Washington was 44 years old when he crossed the Delaware, and I am 44 years old. It's not my birthday, but I'm the same age he was when he crossed the Delaware. This is not going to be an accurate representation in any way. I'm sure he was not standing. Most of the pictures of him crossing the Delaware, he's wearing a hat, and in the quarter, of course, he's not. So here we go. I started out by spray painting the quarter black, and I spray painted several quarters. This is the one that seems to be in the best shape, so this is the one I will use. Once the black paint was dry, I hot glued each quarter to a cork in order to be able to hold it without messing up the paint. I started by painting George Washington with Jokero orange to give myself a starting point. My intention was to make George Washington appear more human than he does in a metallic quarter, and also to place him in a scene where the light from a full moon is bearing down on him and he is facing up toward it. To achieve this, I painted bright, cool colors on the front of his face and the upper portions of his face, and dark, warm colors where he would have shadows. The warm colors will give him that human appearance, and the bright, cool colors will give the appearance of moonlight. This composition gives a nice contrast between the cools in the upper left and the warm colors in the lower right. This is further emphasized by the choice of a red ribbon in the lower right-hand corner and the blue eye. The shallow relief of the quarter made it difficult to use some of the techniques that I'm used to relying on while painting a miniature. However, I do feel more in touch with George Washington as a human being, and I feel that I've learned something about painting. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your valor.